It's great to be here with you today. And first, a big thank you to Mobile Europe for organizing this timely and important session. And thank you, Annie, for inviting me to moderate this panel today. The goal of this panel is to explore how telcos and enterprises can unlock new value from the network. At a time when AI, cloud, automation, and digital transformation are reshaping enterprises' needs. I'm joined by a fantastic panelists to animate this discussion today. So we have Colin Bannon, Chief Technology Officer at BT Business. We have Yu Wang, Chief Technologist at China Telecom, and we have Mohammed Al Boué. I hope I pronounced your name, Mohammed, correctly. Mohammed is Chief Product Officer at Infovista. Before we dive into this discussion, I'd like to take a few minutes to set up the scene. And let me begin with a simple and bold reflection here. So the world increasingly runs on telecommunication networks, both public and private, and those networks underpin every major enterprise transformation. Yet, too often, the value they create flows elsewhere, leaving those who build and operate them searching for more effective models and growth and participations. Networks have long been seen as background infrastructure, essential but invisible. They connect the cloud to the edge, move data workloads securely, and support mission-critical services. But they are still too often treated as cost center rather than strategic assets. The good news is that this is starting. This is beginning to change. Today, enterprises are rethinking how they use the network, not just for speed or uptime, but as a driver of innovation. They are asking key questions and relevant questions. How can they ensure enterprise-grade performance and reliability? How can they gain visibility and control across multi-cloud and distributed infrastructure environment? How can they unlock real-time insight and enable AI at the edge? So how can the network adapt dynamically to those enterprise business needs and KPI? One thing is clear, the network can no longer be just a connectivity pipe. It has to evolve. It has to become a part of the solution stack, programmable, intelligent, and aligned with business intents. To meet those demands, network providers are evolving. They are exposing API. They are involved in the AI foundries and cloud foundries, and to meet those demands, they are also embedding AI stack throughout the entire network infrastructure. Most importantly, they are moving from serving enterprises to co-create value with enterprises. But key questions remain, are those efforts delivering in practical? Are we still stuck in pilot and proof of concepts? And where we are going to see the fruits of investing in innovation, right? Because the enterprise are seeking help today and now. So the ambition is clear, but the execution is still the main challenge. And that brings us to today's discussion. This is not a session about technology. It is about business models, go-to-market alignment, and how telcos and enterprises can partner more deeply to drive outcomes. Those are the guidelines I would like all panelists to consider in their participation, right? In this panel, we are going to explore three main questions. How networks evolve to meet enterprise demand for AI, agility, and automation. I think, Colin was touching base on all those elements in his early keynote presentation. What monetization models can help telcos participate in the digital value chain, not just support that value chain? And how can telcos and enterprises co-innovate from latency-sensitive applications to sovereign cloud and network APIs? And I think, again, Colin touched base on some of those aspects early on. So to help us navigate those themes, I'm delighted to turn to our panelists who bring a diverse and grounded perspective from across the globe. Before we get started, I'd like to invite each panelist to briefly introduce themselves, their organization, and most importantly, share why this topic matters to them. Let's start with Colin, then move to you, and finally to Mohammed. Colin, over to you.
Thank you, Malik. Hello, everybody. For those who were not on the earlier segment, my name's Colin Bannon. I'm the CTO of BT Business. Delighted to be here. And obviously, what I had just been speaking about is that the core of our transformation is exactly against how do we actually make our network relevant for AI, and how do we monetize our network.
Yes.
Thank you, Colin. Mohammed?
Yeah, you want me to go first, or you?
Yeah. So if you go first, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Absolutely, yeah. So hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Al-Abwe. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Infovista. At Infovista, we have solutions that span across the network lifecycle. So we help CSPs and enterprise plan, optimize, test, assure, and most importantly, based on this topic, monetize their network as well. We focus on really delivering network intelligence that accelerates the decision making and unlocks automation, and most importantly, delivers an optimal user experience, which would be the basis of taking actions on monetization and creating use cases as such. Glad to be here and looking forward for the discussion.
Thank you, Mohammed. You?
Yeah, hello, Yue Wang. This is Yue Wang. I'm a chief technologist from China Telecom. So China Telecom is the second largest operator in China, for those of you who might not know. And in terms of the strategy for monetization, I think for us the key elements here is about leveraging the technologies, emerging technologies such as cloud and AI to provide a differentiated service and help our customers either to reduce their operational costs or help them to monetize their solution. But it must be utilizing our platform. So what we envisage is we provide this digital infrastructure, we operate them smoothly, and on top of it, we expose the capabilities of the network and the cloud, and to support the emerging services to our customers. And I can discuss this a bit further in the panel.
Yeah. Thank you, panelists. Let me just start with that simple and candid question to everyone. This is a question most of our clients are asking us. Indeed, the telco technology supply chain is very, very rich in terms of innovation and technology innovation. From network API to slicing to edge computing to the cloud fabrics and agentic system, telcos are starting to embrace that as well. But what is less obvious is how well are those innovations aligned with enterprise needs for agility, automation, and measurable outcomes? And how can telco translate them into real a real world monetization opportunity. So if you could help us, understand how your orchestration, all those technologies and innovations the supply chain is bringing, to help your enterprise customers to gain agility, automation, and measurable outcomes, and how are you intending to monetize, this infrastructure? Starting with Colin, probably.
Okay, well, I think we need to sort of approach this by layers, because it's not just let's start at the mobile network layer, at the mobile one. So from a sort of a numbers perspective, we in the UK have 20,000 cell sites roughly, but interestingly, even though there's a number of different cell providers, we carry over 60% of the mobile traffic in the UK and serve about 90% of the FTSE 100 companies as well. And I think the mobile area is probably where monetization has happened the most recently. I think from the data that is collected around the geospatial information of users, obviously it was one of the first areas. And if you think of the Chimera Alliance that you will be part of, I'm sure, and China Telecom and others will have inputted or discussed around it through the GSMA, is about opening up APIs with other telcos, and scale does matter. So that perhaps you give up some autonomy on what you're developing, but in terms of outcome, there's a set of common personas that all telcos face with different personas and users, and some very common use cases. Fraud is another one. So monetizing information on footfall, anonymizing it, sharing it with companies that want that information is one. Fraud, SIM swap is another one. Roaming related information, it is another one. There are a set of use cases that are evolving, that are becoming monetizable, and you can put really clear investment cases around what you're doing on that. I think, but we can do more. And as long as you're protecting privacy, I think that there's more information, more data. I would say that, with that 100 exabytes worth of data, at the same time, our network is seeing in the UK over 200 million signals of cyber attack each day in our network. And that information around protection and resilience, I think there is more room around monetizing just basically outcomes. So if you think about an outcome around, I want to trade, I want to serve my customers. Today, more and more, it's not just where your customers are, but it's what's the availability of the network, how secure is your device. It's a combination of things. And it is very much about breaking down silos to monetize. And that applies not just to the mobile. Now, the mobile, other one is, if you think about horizontal, somebody's workday today. I don't know about you, but I do a lot of work off my mobile phone when I'm on the train on the way to work each day. So I think the traditional models of security and IT said, well, this is office network. Well, the office network is everywhere now, wherever the users are. And yes, you had to work from home during COVID, and people have started coming back into the office. The offices have probably had a bit of a refresh since they were away. And now, they're really trying to make sure that the experience is the same for everyone. And then from a video conferencing perspective, I think there's more work to do to make an equivalent experience for people who are in the office, in the boardroom, as well as the people who are dialing in from home. And the fact that a lot of times you're on conference calls all day, and the sort of cognitive exhaustion you get from staring at a video screen all day, all of that information can be improved with a little bit of AI and the data that the telcos already have. I would argue that we're only using 1% of the data that we have on our network. The network, in fact, is the largest telemetry device that I know of in any company. And there is far more room to exploit that to deliver brilliant outcomes going forward. Underneath that, the fixed areas, I think it's interesting. If you think about AI right now, what are the worries about it? The hyperscalers cannot really tell us what's happening on the network, so we've had to figure it out ourselves. I feel like I'm sort of a crab on the bottom of the ocean, looking up and seeing the AI fish swim along and see what's going on there. Really, we're trying to infer and extrapolate. So we've really looked at what's going on in the AI data training centers and extrapolated what's going to happen with elephant flows, what's going to happen with this sort of burstable information. But one of the most interesting things that we're seeing on the network that we need to figure out how to monetize and change is you may not get incredibly huge spikes on an individual usage, but you may have greater aggregate usage as they're interacting with AI on the network. And the other thing that we're seeing on the network is networks were originally designed to be sort of primarily unidirectional. People were watching things. They were watching videos, they were doing downloads, and they were essentially consuming on the network, whether that be Netflix or Fortnite or whatever. And we have peaks where you'd see the peak on our core of our network would be a football game that everybody was streaming and a Fortnite patch and a Microsoft patch. You get all those together, you get a really big peak. Now, what's happening with AI is actually AI listens more than it broadcasts. And so you're having the flow go in the reverse direction, that actually the upload matters a lot more now. And so if you think about broadband networks and mobile networks, there is a set of engineering thinking and redesign and planning for network where if you think about a set of glasses, what is great, brilliant about AI? Well, AI will be the new UI. And it is always trying to contextualize. If you had an AI set of glasses, it's trying to contextually be ready for your next step so that you don't have to click any buttons or anything like that. So it's preloading a token. And in order to do that, it's listening or it's watching. You may be actually, it's very believable to believe that people who like the old Truman Show will be broadcasting their lives to their AI assistant. So that AI assistant is ready to translate and be ready with your next anticipated need, always predicting what's next. However, that will put a load on the network. And I think that's one of the most interesting things to design for and anticipate and monetize. And how do you monetize that going forward? And I'll stop there and give time for my colleagues.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting insights, Colin. So I think you mentioned that, early monetization assets start with the network. You gave some examples like fraud, SIM swap, and geolocation and stuff like that, and you went into developing basically the evolution of the network, to be just from moving from consumption based network to more enabling the end user to also participate and uploading and their content and taking advantage of agentic systems and so on. So just wondering, are you, from China's perspective, are you seeing the same trends Colin is seeing, or are you seeing something else in terms of taking advantage of technology innovation and monetizing, this innovation?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with what Colin just said. And he mentioned the trend of having the uplink load, compared to the traditional downlink load. And also, I think what AI brings is also, the different kind of traffic flow. So in the past, we have, this north to south traffic flow, and now it's probably more east to west. I think one of the other big impact that AI is bringing is the differentiated service and the what we call the quality of experience dependent, and that is dependent on both the connectivity and the compute resources. So the example that Colin just gave, for example, the smart glasses, where in the past you would only care, for example, when the latency is required, you only care, for example, the quality of the connectivity, but now you also come the compute requirement. And that compute needs to be placed, close enough to the user, and that's where edge comes into play. And so I just wanted to confirm, I completely agree with Colin just mentioned about the trend. And then in terms of the monetization, I think I can give examples where we did but to B and to C cases, I think largely to B cases are those used for mining, for the automation in the factory, and the to C cases is for connected cars. I know connected cars can be a case that is a bit, debatable because of the safety concerns. But actually in China, when I ask people, on what percentage you are using that smart feature in the car, it's actually over 50%. 50%. So I think it's used a bit more often, for example, than what I experienced in the UK. But then one of the struggles we found is the connected car companies are actually losing the subscriptions from their customers because of the connectivity quality and because of the insight of the data. So what we did is, we gathered data from the road, pedestrians, camera, sensors, this multimode AI analysis, put them into the cloud, edge cloud, where they did the data fusion and then the intelligent processing of the insights. These are then passed to the connected car companies where they can provide better services, and then they can in turn monetize these services to their third parties. So I thought that one is a good example, and we think it actually have a huge market potential when it comes to the combination of a platform of network, cloud, AI, and data. So yeah, I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very insightful. So just turning to Mohammed now, now you heard, operators, how they are using, technologies, to create value for their end customers. But how are you helping, operators to achieve these ends?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, glad to hear the words data and quality of experience from both my colleagues here, because that's what we focus on. Data complexity increases at the speed of innovation. So we've been actually at Infovista in the past 30 years. We've been dealing with such data, and we've been trying to deal with, in breaking the silos between data coming from every direction, whether it's from the mobile network, fixed network, as Colin mentioned, or even, coming from different technologies at the same time. So what we focus on is, we translate that ever-growing complexity, if you wish, into high-quality real-time insights. So that high-quality data would allow and empower the CSPs and the enterprise, to close that distance between the observability that they see in the network, quality of experience, and to take action on it. And that manifests itself in multiple use cases. So what we have adopted recently is our agentic AI framework, along with machine learning, based insights, where we focus on democratizing the data and making it easily accessible for both internal teams within the CSPs and for the enterprise customers in B2B to X scenarios as well. So think about the internal teams. Colin mentioned geospatial analytics, for example. You want to make promotion against understanding your subscriber, understanding the behavior that of each subscriber. You're going to work, you're just browsing social media, you might be doing a conference call. You actually might be in an event watching a game, and you want to stream, and you want a higher demand bandwidth on that. So it's those promotional campaigns are based on understanding the behavior of the customer and being able to have very dedicated and precise campaigns that actually are relevant to that subscriber at that time while he's doing that event, because your day changes rapidly, and you need to understand how the demands of bandwidth and the demands of quality of experience changes based on that. Now, for the CSPs and enterprise, we play a big role there. We see ourselves as a translator, actually, to close the network between the network itself and what the network offers in terms of connectivity, the service that it actually provides, whether it's connectivity or certain services that allows certain applications, and eventually the business operation itself. So we've been involved in multiple use cases. One of them is fraud, which I heard actually Colin also mentioned. Think about, you're offering connectivity and to the banks, and it's network as seen as just providing of that connectivity. But there's so much power into that data that you can turn into revenue, because you can send fraud alerts if a subscriber, for example, is on a phone call at the same time trying to make a data transaction that's flagged as fraud for banks. And that can be monetized as such. This is great, valuable information that we try to simplify the data, democratize it, and as I mentioned, make it available in a highly quality and timely manner. And then it's up to the CSP and the enterprise how to create this monetization package. We've been involved in such cases in the UK, actually. Another example and use cases that we've been dealing with is utilities, for example. You have IoT utility taking connectivity from a CSP. But what the enterprise is aware of is that CSP only provides network connectivity. However, through having a self-service SLA portal, you can monetize different things like triage capabilities, a demarcation of data, which is understanding if it's the fault of the network or the fault of my device, or maybe the user itself. And all these SLA packages can be monetized as such for the enterprise as well. A close, maybe a use case to my heart, which we've done recently in the UK as well, which 5G gaming slicing. So gaming is becoming a big use case that 5G enables one of those slices. So imagine you're a gamer, you're doing, you're having the right bandwidth and latency, but when you have more users join the network will sense that you're going to reach a limit of bandwidth, and that's where we help. We actually, give that information to that slice that the quality of experience will be breached based on the number of users. So you can actually start offering in real time a promotional package for that user to subscribe for high availability 5G slice, for example, and orchestrate it as such in terms of creation and monitoring that quality of experience. Colin, you mentioned in the last session, that slow is the new down, for example, and that's manifests itself quite nicely in that use case, because 5G is gaming in a way is very demanding in terms of bandwidth, and the user itself is not aware of what that quality of experience needed. So we translate exactly that quality of experience from the data that we see into the monetized packages, and as I mentioned, bandwidth on demand. That there are lots of standards around as well, network APIs, the Camara standards that you mentioned. Even better, imagine if you can predict actually through that data the behavior of the network and the behavior of the subscriber itself. So you can offer a certain promotional package at a certain time in a certain location that the user himself is not even aware that he needs that kind of promotional package. So these kind of use cases we've been actually involved in multiple times within the CSPs and the enterprise, where, as I mentioned, we see ourselves as a translator and an enabler to simplify the complexity of that data and provide that network intelligence and data insights.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. And let me stay with you for a bit here, just to zoom in on some elements. You mentioned, and probably, Colin and you could chime in, So you mentioned that, you are offering, a number of packages, to network operators, but also, to enterprises, spanning from implementing quality of service to mining information from end user and obviously SLI packages. Those packages and technologies you are offering are they do require some other technologies or underlying network technologies that are not globally implemented. Slicing, network slicing, embedding, the artificial intelligence at the network, to be able, to sound, the end user intent and so on. So I'm just curious, how are you implementing, those stuff, your packages today, and who are the leading companies you are working, with for that purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. The true promise of 5G, let's say, through 5G slicing and monetizing the network has not been fully realized. The main reason actually for that is what you mentioned, the complexity of dealing with such data and the underlying layers of data coming from everywhere. And even within the silo itself, you'd find multiple solutions producing the same data. So it was almost impossible to deal with the sheer of data that's coming through our through our network as well. So at Infovista, we've been actually always dealing with that data at a level where we try to simplify it, break the silos, and because we understand the data very well, so we know how to quickly aggregate. And if you look at the wisdom pyramid, for example, we deal with the data and the information. We clean the data, aggregate it, and make sure it's available as such. However, I have to say, just recently, the introduction of agentic AI is kind of that created that magic in a way that and enabler that nobody anticipated, and fast-tracked the availability of that data, and enabled operator to create a unified platform where they just remove that headache of dealing with that complexity of data and start dealing with the high quality and available data itself. So since the dawn of that agentic framework, we started adopting within our solutions, agentic frameworks, machine learning based insights, where we create, if you wish, specialized agents that go and deal with the network data itself. So we know, for example, that if you want to extract quality of experience from a certain domain of the network, we have that specialized agent that go and fetch that data quite quickly and present it in real time as needed. And that power of agentic framework is already embedded within our solution, because the Gen AI framework itself is no magic. It's the domain expertise that you actually bring into, and you embed within that through retrieval augmented generation and whatever MCP capabilities and protocols that are out there. So that's what we're focusing on right now, is translating our domain expertise into that agentic framework, which enables the most important thing that wasn't available before these technologies, which is scale. So before, we can deal with a static slice and make sure that that slice from a 360 observability, we understand its connectivity, its the quality of experience, what other demands that you need, you can with a service that it wants as well. So however, if you want to deal with dynamic slices and deal with it at scale, that was impossible. So we started adopting the agentic framework, and through the power of collaboration, I would say. So dealing and trying to do everything on the network, on that complex network, is going to hold you back. So we start collaborating with other domain technologies, like our recent partnership with CSG, for example. We try to bring OSS and BSS data together. So when you look at a network on a slice life cycle, you want to create that slice, you want to monitor that slice, you want in real time to understand the quality of experience if you're delivering a certain use case, and then feedback quickly whatever fluctuations you see on quality of experience and potential breaches, and you want to quickly offer that package and also implement it. So that creation and the awareness, we're bringing basically the network and the users closer together. So we shouldn't shy away from such technology collaboration, which would enable such use cases. There are also obviously collaboration with the CSPs and the enterprise itself. So that bringing that ecosystem together. In recent tier one operator in the UK, actually, we work in terms of creating that slice for a certain event like Comic-Con and stuff. So we implemented started this collaborating in terms of implementing our agentic AI to see how we can democratize the data and present it as such to serve the use case.
Yeah, this is really fascinating, Mohammed, to see that, from that end, at least, there are packages, are ready, to kickstart and start, and help, operators monetize the networks. And let me start. Well, let me just test, both you and Colin about, the readiness of the networks to implement such technologies. So what do you think, Hugh? So packages, are offered by companies like Mohammed's Infovista. So is the network ready for that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. To me, I actually think slicing is more of a concept to us than the technology. So in the sense that how we started the slicing technology and all the standard activities and stuff, but now with AI, it's more of a concept of autonomously orchestrate the different network and the cloud resources and to be able to provide the differentiated services. And so from that perspective, we think the technology side is actually okay. I mean, we are able to, based on the portfolio of the users and being able to generate technology and provide the differentiated services and have the, for example, QoS guarantee. But what I think is the key is actually the business model because the market needs to buy it. So what I'm saying is in the past, Telecom has this traditional measurement of business success by the volume, right? More data, more users, more devices. But now, with the differentiated service, we think the value creation is actually on the service differentiation and the customer services. But the thing is, if the business model is still about more data, more devices, more users, we're not actually able to see the value of that differentiated services. And I think that's how the business model is actually quite important to guarantee the return of investment.
Yeah. Thank you. You. So same question to you, Colin. Is the network ready today for advanced packages like quality of experience monitoring, implementing service level agreements and mining information using AI and implementation of agentic AI? So are the networks ready for these type of use cases?
I'm going to show my age here and perhaps my original history as a fixed network background person. But really what we're talking about here is something that the fixed networks have had for the last 20 years. The separate VRFs, MPLS quads is sort of being re-engineered back into the mobile networks. So these often they say there is nothing new under the sun. Yeah, this is not new. The concepts of programmability, closed loop automation, auto remediation is there. And it's done at various levels of quality. So it's really about the quality and the seamless of the integration versus the unit economics of the package versus the outcomes of what you can achieve. As just a general broad technologist, I sometimes am frustrated where you have a whole set of hardware vendors who have to call some things a different something when there's that thing already. And I think it's important on both the mobile industry and the fixed industry to start to align between the two, and our friends in Infovista and other suppliers to help us provide packages that sit across both. Because if you think about heterogeneous networking, you're going to have the fixed network, Wi-Fi and other things lean in to help. And you want common experience across both mobile and fixed in the future, is my expectation. Yes, absolutely, you will have densification, but I think when you move into these buildings that are brilliant Faraday cages because they're green buildings and they have metal outsides, and you're moving seamlessly to enterprise Wi-Fi, or you're in your home. My home has a thatched cottage and it's old mud walls and they're 3 foot thick. It's not great for a 5G high spectrum frequency to get through those walls. I want a control plane that sort of seamlessly blends my, ultimately, I don't think our users care whether it's I'm connected to Wi-Fi or mobile or, being fed by the fixed network. They just want really great experience. Now, the real question is, are they willing to pay for incremental packages, and how do we sell that benefit? And I think the use cases that my colleague from Infovista was talking about is great. Finding the right use cases and finding the right monetization is how are customers willing to pay a premium beyond that. But I think also as an industry, we have maybe not done collectively as good a job as creating the narrative of the importance of the network itself. And what I mean by that is the hyperscalers and the gaming companies said, well, I want to pay for a premium license. I want additional gaming features. Yeah. And they're able to monetize that really easily because people have been users conditioned to pay for that. I want a bigger GPU. Yeah, I want the H200, not the H100, right? Jensen has done a brilliant job of conditioning the market to always buy the latest thing, and use up all the power. They've done a brilliant job. Have we, as an industry, vendors, China Telecom, BT, everybody out there in the communications, conditioned the market, made them appreciate that the network is part of the computer? And they're on one side, they're willing to pay for a bigger software license and they're willing to pay for a bigger processor and more memory, but they don't seem to be conditioned yet to really appreciate, I just want to pay for a bigger or a better quality or a slice. And that work, we need to collectively work a lot harder to help people appreciate that is a single part of the end-to-end ecosystem, and together we can probably do a good job on that. Exactly. I just wanted to finish on that.
Yeah, so just I think a good segue, to my next question. As you mentioned, the telco have traditionally treated, the network in general, fixed or mobile, as a cost center. It's a really an enabler that is there and so on. So, but a lesson to be, as you mentioned, Colin, to be learned, from the cloud service provider and others, So they are flipping that coin, they are flipping that narrative, and starts with, I have technology before I introduce it, how to monetize it. So basically, what is the boldest way to flip that coin or that narrative, and monetize the network? What advices do you could you give, to the telco industry chain, to flip that coin and to start, from monetization, reverse back, to the technology? Let's start with you, Colin, since you started that debate.
Oh, I was hoping you would go, so I had time to think. So let me just think about your question for a second on the monetization. I mean, I was thinking about something and it just slipped my mind. We've talked about end user experience on how customers want to appreciate this. And I think that's where we're doubling down. I think it's also value-added services. I think a couple of things. One of the challenges we have right now in selling this is traditionally the received financial wisdom of how enterprises buy from telecoms in the last 10 years, the KPMGs of the world and others, procurement schools teach people to break their procurement exercises up into smaller and smaller pieces. Literally, I've had to fill out a receipt, a response to a bid, where for every country I had to put the part number of the power cable and what the price of that power cable is in for the bill of material, so that they could break it down, different person installing it, different person doing support, different person doing the top, using games theory to get the lowest unit economics or the lowest price. However, I think there's a fundamental flaw in that procurement methodology over the years. So you've got individual teams, you've got a network procurement manager, you have an applications procurement manager, you may have an OT, IT and OT, you have an OT person, and then you got a security procurement manager. And invariably, they're looking to achieve their bonus by reducing the cost by 10%. Right. However, by breaking it up into small, tiny fragments, the poor operations, so they get their bonus, they high five each other and they go, yeah, I've done a great job. And then you get on an emergency bridge on a Monday morning and there's 20 different companies who all own one piece and they all say their part is green, right? And then the customer has to hire another 100 people to actually manage all the suppliers and manage and do root cause analysis and deduplication and put additional end layer visibility orchestration across the top. Because what they've done is injected by design, or at least financial design, finance where they save 10% within their department, but cost the business 20% for the service integration afterwards. So they're moving. So what we're seeing, this is just me, what I'm seeing with customers is you've got these legacy procurement departments moving the pain bubble around their own departments to other departments. And you're buying security in a different year than you're buying networks, when in reality, you should be thinking about it holistically. Correct. So I think one of the transformational areas we need to do, again, working with our enterprise customers, it's very hard if you have a network that is a transformational device. It's not just a cost center anymore. Yeah. It's actually something that you can use to transform your applications. So for instance, our network can eliminate effectively a thing called egress costs on cloud. And that's a really big thing, but it's over in the apps department. It's a different procurement team. So the finance director won't necessarily allow that procurement manager to care that I could save 100 million over here, because all they're looking at is that. So you almost have to change the sales model, go up a level to find the person who owns the overall cost to look at it holistically. And I think that's going to be a really interesting area of exploration of the next phase of how we sell into enterprises, but also the transformation on really being honest with ourselves on how enterprise should buy and get away from the buying old-fashioned stovepipes. There's a huge amount of organization. There's a thing called Conway's Law. Yeah, there's Conway's Law. Conway's Law is effectively the law that describes your architecture will end up looking like your organizational design. You're doomed to fail that way. And I think we're experiencing a bit of organizational drag versus the reality of where technology in the future is going, and that needs to change.
Yeah, no, and Colin, don't you think, that would require a radical a root change in the culture, of telcos, either that be operators or their supply chain, moving from just stitching network elements to gathering around solutions and providing a real solution to the real pain points. So I think that's what you are trying to say, but I don't know how far away we are in that journey. But probably let's ask you her perspective on flipping the size, building the solution or network as a solution, and then monetize it. That's the way other supply chain, other value chains, are dealing with the business side of things. You?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure how much time we have left.
The session is extended by 5 minutes. Annie kindly, mentioned that we still have 15 minutes.
Oh, cool.
problem.
Okay. So, so I can go a bit longer then. So in China Telecom, we actually have a long-term vision of cloud and network convergence. So what we believe is, network traditionally we provide the connectivity, but now with the requirements from the emerging AI services, we also need the cloud infrastructure, and we wanted to be able to see we can evolve both the network and the cloud infrastructure under one unified platform, and they no longer operate in silos, and we will be able to expose the capability of both the network and the cloud, and to deal with both the network and AI workloads. And through the united open APIs. So this is the long-term vision, and of course there will be challenges when we explore the journey. And another thing I would say is I hope we can engage with the ecosystem earlier. And so I think in 5G, what we did is we advanced the technology, right? We build the infrastructure, and then we wait for the applications to come. And I also think, when it comes to the AI era, when the applications of AI thrived on hyperscaler clouds, is because the AI becomes the entrance point, and the hyperscalers are where the first services contact point of the AI applications. And I think and now, hopefully, with the emerging AI services coming along, the operators can engage with the ecosystem earlier, and so while building their infrastructures, rather than build the infrastructure first and then wait for the applications to come. So I think, and so back to your question, two things. One is a united platform that hosts both the network and the cloud. So services are provided under one unified infrastructure. And secondly, engage with the ecosystem earlier. So basically evolve the technology with the requirement from the stakeholders.
Yeah, very good.